Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. Hey everybody, tonight we answer a few more questions about our panel. And with the holiday, we only did one raid this weekend. But we do have a special guest, so let's start off with our introductions. I'm your host, Faffard. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. First off, we have Laureli.
Hi, it's Laureli, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Next up is Epistle.
Hello, I'm Epistle. I play a Draenei Protection Paladin.
Jobui and Tapachino are not here, so if they join us, great. If not, then we'll just run with the three of us. But we do have a special guest tonight. We have Worgen back for a second time.
Hello.
Worgen, remind everybody what you are and what you play.
I'm a Worgen Arms Warrior.
Arms, yeah!
Better than the stupid Furies. I think a lot of people just took offense to that.
Yeah. So, you've been on before and we've asked you your questions before, but we did never ask, what's your favorite mount, pet, or toy box item, and why?
Do the drinks count? The
That's a toy box item?
Yeah, I'd have to go with those. Ken's
Okay.
Mug of Ale or something along the lines of that. I don't remember what it's called, but it's my favorite item.
Yeah, and I can understand why. So is there a story behind your name?
Oh, we just wanted to figure out a cool name for a Worgen. So we decided to do a little play on that, so Worgen.
Yeah, because it is... Go ahead and spell it for everybody so they understand.
I think it's Waerghan. Try writing that down.
Now everybody can look you up.
Oh boy.
We are listed in iTunes, Google Play, and Podomatic.com. That's Lions Pride Tavern at Podomatic.com. You can send any and all questions or comments to LionsPrideTavern at Yahoo.com. So, because we don't have Jobui tonight, Epistle is going to take over on how we did on our raid the one day we did it this Friday. Epistle?
Yeah, thanks. For one day, it wasn't too bad. We got quite a bit done. I think we all kind of knew it wasn't going to be the same kind of intense weekend, but Friday we started off with an enjoyable go at Nathendra, easy enough to do. And then we backed out, came back in, and tried again for the achievement. What was it called again? A buggy fight, I think. And so that's if you squish 15 glow bugs during the break between different phases on the boss. And we were able to pull that off and get the achievement, which was a neat little trick. And then after that, we carried on, took on the bear, and let's see, what's 2 or 3 pulls on that one. It was a little clunkier. Just we were having trouble kind of smoothing it out, and a few sort of tanking, healing, trying to keep the tanks up and going through that. But then once we were done, we then decided to head on off to take on Odin again, as he's been nerfed and is easy to handle. So it was, I thought, ludicrously smooth. It was such an easy fight compared to the last few goes where it felt like we were only getting up by hook or by crook. This time it felt like we just went in, we knew the mechanics, sailed through, and it was just easy cakes.
Well, I do remember, for one on the bugs, last time we did it, we let him do 2 or 3 down phases where she goes to sleep. That's where the bugs come out. And on this one, I think we went through a 4th one just to make sure we had more than enough of those bugs. And there again, I found it very, very weird not to be attacking and just running around avoiding damage. I'm sure you just had your normal, I'm a tank, I'm just up there hitting it. Lorelei, what did you think of the achievement once we got it?
Oh, I think it was fun. I thought it was great. We actually stepped on more bugs than we needed just to make sure this time because we thought we had it last time but didn't quite get it. Um, yeah, it was weird not attacking anything, and I was a little worried that he was going to go down just with the tanks doing what they were doing. But we got it. We got it and got the achievement and felt really good about it this time.
Epistle, were you actually tank swapping with Durag?
No, we actually, people might have in TeamSpeak wondered what all the frustration that Darg was having there, but it turns out that Nathendra does something weird. She'll put a debuff on a tank, usually the one that's tanking her, and then they have to run off and back. But 4 or 5 times in a row, even though I had threat the whole time, it kept getting thrown on to Darg, and he didn't have enough cooldowns to speed up, and he's getting frustrated running back out and forth. He'd come back only to get debuffed again, and off he went. So there may be some mechanic we don't know about that triggered that, but it was very funny because I stood in one spot for a ridiculously long time while he was sort of running back hither, thither, and yon.
Worgen, were you in on this fight?
Yeah, I was. I just tried not to die during the bug phase. I almost died trying to grab one of the bugs myself.
Did you? I was going to say, did you get one of the bugs on the ground?
I did, and it almost killed me. Some of the poisoned ground came right at me as I was grabbing the bug, so I almost died there. It was pretty embarrassing.
So now, do you have? Does a arms warrior have heroic leap?
Yes.
And so you didn't use that to get out of the way?
I will say cooldown.
Ah, okay, all right, good, fair enough.
What I observed as a tank that was kind of strange in that fight too is that if I'm not DPSing, so I'm not attacking the boss, I'm actually way more squishy. So, I know we didn't want to take the boss down, but I felt like the healers were having to do a whole lot more work to keep me up. So I just kept on doing my rotation.
Interesting. Yeah, I was curious because I really wasn't paying attention. I was asleep back in the back corner. I was back there sleeping with my pets laying on the ground. I was having fun. I didn't see a one bug the entire time. Now, the first time we attempted it, I think I got 2 or 3 of them. But this time, for whatever reason, I ran all over the place. I was like Lorelei last weekend. I was looking up in the air, looking for the fireflies. Didn't see a bug one. So Ursoc, yeah. So we got him down. We had a little problem, I think. We had a couple of new people, and as a raid leader, I can't always remember who's run with us and at what level they've run with us all the time. So I thought everybody knew the fight to begin with, but we did have a couple of new people or people that haven't been to the fight on this mechanic because it is different than normal. And that caused a couple of problems. And then, of course, the tanks, I don't know. Are you getting it down, Epistle, at all? Because that one always seemed to give you guys a tough break on the tank swaps.
Yeah, it's certainly tougher than the Odin fight, I would say, and probably will be for a while. There's really several pieces running, and we got to figure out whether we use, add-ons like Deadly Boss mods to track where the debuffs are going, or whether we manually look at it. And I know Darug looks at it manually. I tend to use DBM, and that can get us off a little bit if we're not totally sequenced. But generally speaking, it's also just really fast, so you got to be on your toes.
Okay. Lorelei, you got any comments from a warrior perspective?
Well, as of Friday, I was pretty much under a NyQuil-induced haze for most of the fights, and I died quite a bit more than I usually do. So, I don't know. From my perspective on the floor, it just seemed like it was a movement thing with the Ursog fight. I do think the Odin fight went much better. I'm not sure if it looked like the orbs were coming out slower than normal. Um, I don't know. There was something different about that fight, so it does feel like they did nerf it somewhat.
That could have been your NyQuil too.
Yeah,
I didn't think
that NyQuil's good stuff. I'm gonna say that.
I didn't think they were coming out any slower.
Oh, well, maybe that was me. Maybe that's why I kept dying so much.
That new marketing campaign, rating better with NyQuil.
Ooh.
I
I mean,
do
not
know
better, but you have a lot more fun doing it.
Yeah.
You're all great role models.
Kids, don't do NyQuil.
You wait.
I do know that the fight's much simpler from a tanking perspective because he throws a spear that was basically just a tank killer unless we used every single trick in the book, in our books and all the pallies in the raid and every healer trick to get through that. This time around, yeah, it used to be you had to do two things: both mitigate the damage and run away. This time it was, a combination of the two would be more than sufficient. And yeah, so the tanks weren't dying, so the whole raid lasted longer.
Yeah. Well, it seemed to go a lot smoother. There again, we had a couple of new people, and one of them didn't quite get the add to the rune on time.
That was
Sounds like that
unfortunate.
Yeah, that always hurts. Because that's almost an instant wipe. I think there was just after that, there was 3 people up, and that was it. But once we got it and we understood it and we explained it again, there again, it's really tough when you go week to week and you get some new people and some older people and then some new people that are new to us, but they're not new to raiding. They may be really good with their guild, but every guild's a little different. Everybody does it a little different. So, yeah, I thought it was a good raid for Friday night. That wasn't too bad. We got 2 mythic bosses down, 1 normal, and then I guess Odin's, that's actually normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also good to hear people getting gear, right, and calling out gear and trading gear. And I think on Nathendra we didn't have quite as much, but on Odin we're still handing out loot.
Yeah. Well, we'll get past. I mean, and now that they nerfed him a little, we'll get past him and get on to Goobly-ish, whatever his name is.
The dog.
Yeah, the dog. So, anybody got any more comments they want to share about the raid for the weekend?
The Ursoc fight is a pain for melee sometimes.
Is that because you're so close?
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally when he does his charge, he'll clip you. Sometimes you're just a little too close. He'll hit you, and then you'll have to pass on the next charge when it's your turn to get hit, or you'll just straight up die. So if you're not really careful, you will end up dead.
Yeah, so what we do is we break that fight down into 2 groups. We have an odd and even group, and then we'll call out which group goes out to a marker we have set in the middle, and then he'll do his charge to that. So do you stay? And of course, what that does, that mitigates, it splits the damage between everybody that's in that group. So do you find then that you just automatically, if you were an even, you switch over to the odd group then?
Yeah, if you get hit, then you kind of have to switch groups, or you can wait past another cycle, but that can also cause all other problems. So
well, that's why I was curious. That's why I was
Yeah.
asking. I mean, is that what you did? Did you actually just switch groups, or did you skip one time to get back in your regular rotation?
Well, warriors have 2 little cooldowns they can use that decrease the amount of damage they take. One of them increases the amount of health you have, and one of them decreases the amount of damage you take. So if I use them both, I can be hit with his charge while the initial charge debuff is on me. So sometimes, if it's because I'll still take the normal amount of damage, so it's actually quite useful because then I can stay in the proper rotation if I have both of those up.
Nice. So I'm just curious because I don't tank Epistle. So what happens with the tanks when that charge happens? Is there something that you guys are doing that you're not running out there too?
Sometimes, frankly, we just get hit with it depending on how the positioning is working. We try to avoid it, but it's really hard to do. And so then it's just more incoming damage to try to mitigate.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. That pretty much covers the raid. I mean, it was a 1-day raid, so we didn't have a lot to talk about. So we did get another 910 listens in on our last week's podcast. So in our total life, that's 17,842 unique plays of our podcast, whether it be from Google Play, iTunes, YouTube is the only one it doesn't track, because YouTube is I have that. The way I do it with Podomatic.com is I actually have the podcast at Podomatic, and then it puts it on Google Tunes or Google Play and iTunes. But YouTube is a separate feed, so I have to add those in each week. YouTube doesn't get a lot of hits, but boy, I really like to see it take off because we have a fantastic artist, Donna Bell. She's one of our paladins that raids with us, and every week we give her screenshots of our tunes, different tunes and different people in our raids, and then she draws them. So as you're listening to the podcast, you can actually watch her digitally draw those tunes, and she does a really, really good job. So my hat's off to Donna. Donna Bell's a great artist, so got to go check it out on YouTube. You can just do a search for Lion's Pride Tavern podcast, and we are the only ones like that, and it brings up those YouTube videos, and then you can click subscribe to the channel. It's Captain Adonis, and then you can get it every week when it comes out, because it doesn't come out normally on Monday. I don't get that one out till Tuesday, Wednesday, because it takes a little longer to render the actual video and everything. So, all right. So we did get a few more listeners out of Canada, UK, Guyana, Australia,
Yay.
Brazil. They're all kind of the same. So the US and Canada got a few more subscribers. So that's pretty cool. And one of the subscribers has asked a few questions. They're kind of I want to say they're more of the negative side questions, but that can be good too. So one of the first questions they asked was what was one of the worst things you've seen in game? And I think he was more talking, the way I understood it, was like player behavior, somebody throwing a fit or something like that. But it could be anything. Maybe one of the worst holiday events or anything. Just one of the worst things you've seen in game. And we'll start off with Laureli.
I think overall one of the worst things that I've seen in the game is the trolling in trade chat. Especially, it gets really bad a lot of times with what people are saying to each other, and I think that it really shows the worst of what players can be like in this game. And a lot of times that's why I turn trade chat off, especially when I'm in a major city. I just don't want to see them talking about people's mothers and just some of the crude comments that are made. I've actually gotten a little bit upset with some of them, and I've reported people for that occasionally, because it's not, they're picking on people, and I don't want to see the bullying done. People get on this game to have fun and make friends, and when they ask a question, you just seeing about 10 people jump all over them for asking a question is really kind of ridiculous. So I think that's one of the worst things I've seen in this game.
I have to agree with that. I think that's one of the worst things I've ever seen, because I've been there. I've been the noob and ask a question, and everybody's like, "You're a dummy," and they use some really colorful language. I just it would. I mean, you can turn on the language filter and all that stuff, so you don't have to see it, but what's going on even with the language filter. It just you got kids playing and everything. My daughter has been playing since she was 4. And she's 11 now, so I just wish they could have that cleaned up. But how do you do it? I don't think there is a way. So
You just report them, just get their name and just report them, and they'll go back and look, and they can put a 24-hour ban on them, or if it gets too bad, they can suspend them for a time.
sure, yeah, I've never seen it happen. I did have he was an older raid member. I don't know what he did, but he said he got banned from WoW for like a week, but I never did get out of him exactly what he did or what he said. But he said it wasn't something that bad, but to get banned, I'd think it'd be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Epistle, what's the worst thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, that trade chat's awful. I tend to filter it out too for the same reasons. I actually was, for the last few months, just happy about how I'd seen so little melodrama. And then I went on my healer to just a heroic, so not a big deal. And the tank very quickly got insulting and unpleasant, and I just was going to ignore it. And this is one of those instances where there was a DPS who was doing, enormous amounts of damage, and the tank was doing practically none. And so I actually just chatted to this person doing the DPS, saying, I'm only sticking around here for you because I'm recognized as probably a long queue, and so I'll just see this through to the end. And he was like, "Oh, thanks." And then a little later on, the tank was, continuing to be rude. So I said to him, "You mind if I just don't heal the tank?" And he said, "Yeah, I got this." So I just stopped healing the tank for the rest of the run. And we get to the very end, and he starts ranting, and the other two DPS just leave. So it's just me, the uberly geared character, and then the tank. And he starts, saying, "Get out of my group," and all this kind of really unpleasant stuff. And the other DPS who's with me votes to kick him. So I say yes, and boom, he was gone.
Nice. Yeah, that vote to kick is kind of nice. We've used that a lot when we've gotten into dungeons that, when we were pugging them, and the guys are just like, one, they're not doing anything, or two, they're just telling everybody how to do their job, and I can't stand those guys. And here's my question, just out of curiosity. I don't have anything against the young kids, but do you think it's more adults that act that way? Middle-aged? Kids? What do you think? Votes?
This sounds like a question for Worgen.
I'm right here,
Yeah, but he doesn't do that. I know he doesn't, because his dad is listening to this and participating.
I like to be nice in chats.
You'd like to?
Yes.
Has
Okay.
there been any time you haven't?
Loaded question.
Only to my brother, but that's another story.
Yeah, Will Brunsbeard deserves it.
Yeah, that's...
He does entirely, often.
Brothers are that way.
I'd like to think that the adults, that play would know better, but I'm not going to say that it's all just a kid thing. It probably isn't.
Yeah, I wonder how you'd know, though, right? Unless you actually ask the person. So, are you 15? Are you 39?
Yeah, I don't think you'd know either, but I don't know. This whole thing has gotten way out of hand with these trolls, I guess is what you'd call them. I'm not into it. I don't see the enjoyment of picking on somebody. Just really torques me. So
I was wondering whether is it that we're running more with people we know so we don't run into trolls as much, or is it that there's less issues with trolls? Like it may be just in my situation, I'm not running into many because I just don't run with, without knowing most of the people in the group.
Well, I know Jobui had brought this up in one of our past podcasts, that they have a system out there that if you get so many negative comments, like Laureli was saying, you just report them. If you get so many negative comments, they'll give you some sort of punishment, whether it be you can't chat with anybody anymore. If you use a bunch of foul, offensive language in trade chat, they ban you from trade chat. It's that simple. So, and I think they can do that with pretty much anything. I mean, it's their game. They could design it and do whatever they want. But up to the point where they could just, that's not part of the code of conduct or because everybody clicks that little button saying I accept, but they never read it.
The terms and conditions.
Yes. I actually heard a funny story. I actually heard of a game company. It was over in the UK that they were doing. This was a documentary I was watching, and it was on terms and conditions. Anyway, this game company, as a joke, in the terms and conditions said, if you accept this, you signed on with the devil or something, and it took your soul. And they had 40,000 people playing their game. And everybody had to accept the terms and agreement. So, yeah, people get past the first paragraph, I'm sure, and that's about as far as it goes. So, Worgen, what's the worst thing you've ever seen in the game?
Well, other than the Warlords of Draenei expansion, there's a lot of other bad things out there.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
I didn't like the Warlords of Draenei expansion, or at least I didn't like the second half of it.
And what didn't you like? Specifically. I mean, was it the garrisons or what?
Well, the garrisons started going downhill after a while, especially with the shipyard. I felt like the shipyard just kind of felt like just another variation on the garrison itself. And especially the whole Garrosh thing, Thrall killing Garrosh. We spent all this time, like, not just like questing and the zones were pretty good, but story-wise, a lot of the stuff took a big downward turn, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, when the fleets came out, I just thought it would be something totally different. I thought we could build ships and use them or something like that. That would have been cool, but the way it turned out, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's kind of what I expected, but not what I was really looking for.
Yeah, some sort of customization on the ships would have been cool, actually. That would have been interesting.
Yeah. All right, question number 2 from our fan was, what was your least favorite dungeon or raid? Let's start off with Laureli.
Okay. I don't remember all their names, but it was any dungeon that had to do with bugs. I really don't like them. I remember there was one in Northrend, and whenever we have the dungeons of the week, the time walking dungeons, I get that one every time, multiple times. I just don't like the bugs. Then there was the one in Pandaria. I didn't like that one either. I have a thing about just bugs, and those are never my favorite dungeons to run.
Bugs in general, or like the spiders?
You know what? The spiders I don't mind as much as just the bugs, which is why I did not like Dread Wastes as a questing area, because to me it was just I'm helping bugs. And I don't want to help bugs. I just want to kill bugs. And I just want them to be gone. So that wasn't an area I enjoyed in the game, and I did not like that. I'd have to look that raid up, find out what that one was. But I didn't like that one at all.
Okay, fair enough. Epistle?
You want your raids to be sponsored by Raid.
Yeah, I'm good with that raid.
What was your least favorite dungeon or raid?
Yeah, mine. I had to think about this. The Terrace of Endless Spring actually was, and I'm very conflicted about Pandaria because I loved the look and feel of Pandaria, but that was one of the times I took a bit of a WoW vacation because I guess I got into a couple of the raids. I think there was LFR then too, and I just found it very unsatisfying. You walk in, you fight one boss, another one comes in, you fight it. You walk up a stair, you fight another boss, and then another one. It felt so static, and the mechanics were disinteresting or uncomplex, and so I just started to find myself losing interest at that point. So it wasn't that it was bad; it just somehow didn't connect, it didn't capture my imagination.
Yeah, okay. Worgen?
I remember this one dungeon back in Wrath of the Lich King that it was a really good one, really good bosses, really cool looking. Except it had a lot of ramps that you had to go up and down and up and down, and you ran back and forth, and the designing for it was just such a pain to navigate because there were also a couple
Oculus.
ones that were blocked out.
Is that the Oculus, the one in the air?
I think so, yeah. I don't remember the name, but it was such a pain to navigate. But it was really fun to do, fun to fight the bosses. But it was just too much of a pain to bother with.
Yep. So everybody that knows me will know that my least favorite dungeon or raid had anything and everything to do with No Morrigan. I hate that place. I hate the little gnomes. I mean, and it seemed like when you hit that certain level, when you were leveling your character, that was the only dungeon that would show up would be No Morrigan. And you'd go and you'd do another one.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you there. Did you say No Morrigan?
Yes.
You mean Nomragon?
I call it No Morrigan.
Why?
Because I don't like it.
He can call
That's
it what
gonna
he wants
bother
to.
me for a long time.
You say tomato, I say tomato. No, I actually don't. I say tomato, but yeah.
I get your point.
All right, another fan question, and this was from the same guy. He was really into this negative. What was your least favorite class or race? Laureli?
I will have to say that my least favorite class, and I have tried them all, is Warlock. And I'm getting ready to delete my Warlock because I don't even want to play him anymore. I don't know what it is. I thought that Warlock would be really cool and interesting, but I just have never been able to get into it. And my least favorite race, it's kind of a tie between the undead and the troll. I don't really care for many of the races on the horde side anyway, but I think of all of them, I think maybe troll is slightly above undead, but not too far.
What do you mean? I love the trolls, man.
Yeah,
They're
there's
just
trolls
their
are
part of
awesome.
it. Yeah.
Trolls are awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. The undead
I love
are
their jokes.
terrible, but trolls are awesome.
The only thing they had going for them was their mount.
The trolls?
Yeah, they had the raptors, didn't they?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, that was a cool mount.
Never used
See-
a troll, but I know they're cool.
And I liked the undead because you could eat the dead body of whatever you just killed to gain your health back. That was awesome.
Is that ever a reason to like something?
Sure, eating roadkill's good, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
You just lost half your viewers.
I did. Epistle, save me.
I think you dug yourself in deep in that and should have left the corpse there. I actually would be with Lorelei on the not so excited about the horde tunes, although I do like the goblin. I did roll a goblin once and played a chamois and had some fun, but I actually I am not a big fan of chamois and warlocks, but I think the one I like the least though is a priest. I rolled a priest and played it. It was so convenient and helpful to get into all kinds of dungeons, but then I just got really sick of healing everything that way, and I just prefer a druid. So I'd actually have to say priest just. Oh wait, I'm gonna lose some friends here in our raid, aren't I? Priests are just not my class to roll.
No, I don't think you can because, everybody has their own opinion on what they like and they don't like and why. So they got to respect your opinion. Just like with roadkill.
We
There
don't
you go.
respect you with that. Well, I don't think we respected you to begin with, but hey.
You know what? It's all about recycling, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, Worgen, least favorite race and class?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with undead being my least favorite race, simply aesthetically, because they're just kind of icky. And
Of corpse.
oh, come on. Oh, well. As for my least favorite class, I don't like shamans, but I think priests are worse.
So, I am a little bit torn. I think my least favorite race is the Draenei. And it's
Epistle just took offense.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm
But-
just quietly smoldering here. That's okay.
I just don't like the horns and the tail and all that. And to be on the flip side, the Tauren on the Horde side is just as bad. Running around as a bovine, even female, they're not sexy. Just not at all. Now, blood elves, night elves, yeah. And then I'm not too sure that I really have a least favorite class. I have all of them. I would probably say the one I don't like to play the most is my monk. I don't like monks. Even as a healer, and that's the way I originally did my monk, was as a regular monk, and just went out there because I'm a big martial arts fan. Love kung fu, Jeet
Do you do
Kune
kung
Do,
fu?
all that. I do Jeet Kune Do, which is the Bruce Lee. It's a mix between kung fu and American boxing. I did, now I'm 52, and my leg doesn't quite touch my forehead anymore.
None
It's
of
getting
ours
close. A
does.
little more.
Thanks for sharing.
And I thought when the monks came out, I thought, oh, that's gonna be so cool. But they're not. They're odd. To place kung fu into a medieval setting, of course we have hunters with guns too, so boomsticks. It's kind of gotten away. I think this whole thing's supposed to be medieval, darker times with the Dungeons and Dragons type feel, but
With airships.
yeah, airships and gliders and guns, and I mean and motorcycles. Now I get it. They gotta appeal to everybody. They're a business. But I'm sorry, the Draenei, the Taurens, there's no sexy looking panda either, but I didn't mention them.
So let me just check here. So you don't think there are such things as sexy looking Draenei?
No.
Have you seen Epistle?
No.
I have one, and I'm going to say no.
Now hold on. I'm just
It's
going to
the
say.
hoof. The hoof blows it.
Hey, I keep mine nice and nicely trimmed and clean. But no, I was going to say,
Nice and shiny.
what happens when you're married to somebody who's playing a Draenei all the time?
That's fine.
I wish you a peaceful and happy holiday season.
Yes.
It's making it worse. He's down for the count now.
She's gonna listen to this podcast and be all over me too. I know it.
I was just trying to see if I could dig another hole for you.
Hide every computer in the house.
Yes, right.
Every phone, every tablet.
Next question. What factors influenced your faction choice in the game? For instance, Alliance or Horde? What were the factors that actually made you decide to go Alliance? Laureli?
Well, mine's all about the way things look, and that goes back to what's your least favorite race, and that's pretty much most of the Horde side characters. So I'm also more partial to prettier cities, and everything on the Horde side is, except for Silvermoon, is ugly, and so I I transitioned over to Alliance. I actually started out as Horde with a different tune, and but I just liked the way everything looked on the Alliance side, and I'd rather do something for the good, and just can't trust those Horde. But what got me with my faction choice really was that when I saw the night elf mounts, the cat mounts, I really, really wanted one of those. So that's where Laureli came from.
Okay, yeah. Epistle?
It's funny. This is a very difficult question for me to answer because it was never a question that I would roll Alliance. It was never a question that I'd have a human or a night elf or a Draenei. There was just never any appeal to me to do anything otherwise. So I don't know whether that's just that I want to play on the good side, or whether it's that I like the looks of it, or whether I just like the sort of when I'm reading fantasy literature, there's just the good side and the bad side. So why would you want to be the bad side? So maybe I just haven't been in touch with my inner dark side enough.
I was going to say, I think the majority of people, and I can't say this for any certainty, prefer the Horde. When you watch some of the BlizzCons, when they yell out, what faction you are, and they say, for the Alliance, for the Horde always seems to be louder and more obnoxious. Now, that's because they're the evil side, I don't know, but...
That kind of fits, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, and the developers' main tunes are all Horde, too, from what I understand.
Yeah, so I think it's a darker side versus the light side, and I've always been... Well, let's put it this way. When I've played Dungeons & Dragons, they have alignment, and you can be good, you can be chaotic. Every tune I ever rolled up was a neutral. I couldn't stay. I wanted to play both sides. If I wanted to be bad, I could. If I wanted to be good, I could, So I tried staying that way. So for me, I would have to say it was more of a choice. I'm kind of with Laureli there. I liked the cities, the way they looked. They looked like medieval towns. You went to Westfall and it looked like a medieval town, like you'd think, and that's what I was kind of going for, where you go to the Horde side and everything's just dark and, undead. So, Worgen, what about you? What was your favorite, or what factors influenced your faction choice?
Well, for me, it's never really about faction. It's about pairing the class to the race. I've only ever played 3 main tunes. A gnome mage, a night elf rogue, and of course my Worgen warrior. I just find that those classes, I feel pair well with those races. And none of the Horde races seem to really fit well, other than Shaman and Orc, and Warlock and Orc. None of the classes seem to pair well with the races.
Really? Because the last thing I would have ever been in my life is a gnome mage.
Too cliche?
I like the idea of a tiny little guy blowing stuff up. Millhouse Manastorm.
Okay, but see, I thought that way too. So, because I actually have a gnome, but it's a warrior. And when a warrior does his little blade spin and he's only at ankle height, that's cool. Or even less than that if he's going up against like Odin, who's, 70 feet tall and you're barely underneath his toenail. I mean, that's awesome.
You do not want to cut underneath your toenail. Oof, stings. That's how you beat Odin. Send a gnome.
Yeah, right.
Well, I find something bulkier like the Worgen. The Worgen male model especially is this huge hulking, it just screams power and strength. So I find it's just a perfect fit for warrior, especially if you're wielding a weapon that's almost your size. It can look really cool.
Yeah, and see, to me, the ultimate warrior look is the human look. It's a Conan the Barbarian. And what really fits in with that was the orc. If I were to play Horde, I'd have to play an orc warrior because that's the only thing to me an orc looks like is a warrior. I just can't see it as a paladin. I can't see it as anything else.
Orc Paladin just wouldn't make sense. They'd have to be, like, lore-aligned. It would just be Shaman, Warlock, or Warrior. It just feels wrong to be anything else.
User joined your channel.
And there's Jobui.
Hey, folks.
Oh, okay. Little late to the party.
Yeah, well, I got mixed up on what day of the week it was. With the holidays and
Too much drinking?
No, more like like food comas and
Sure.
getting up
Sure.
early to take care of stockings and stuff like that for the kids.
That was a
Well-
better excuse than I thought.
Unfortunately, we were just about ready to wrap
Just
it up.
wrapping up now, yeah.
Well, hey,
All right,
thanks
see you
for
later.
coming, everybody.
Well, we can ask you a couple of questions really quick. So we did have some fan questions. So we'll let you answer them really quickly, and that way we'll get your responses in there. What was
Sure.
one of the worst things you've ever seen in game? Now, I kind of thought he was talking player behavior, but he really didn't, put that out there. But so we just talked about anything that you thought it was the worst thing that you've seen in the game.
Warlords
Wow.
of Draenor.
Yeah, in Warlords of Draenor or
No. He's
Oh,
saying
oh.
he thought the whole
Oh.
thing.
The
Warlords of
expansion was bad.
Oh, see, I liked Warlords.
Yeah.
I would say worst thing. I'm gonna go with player behavior. Because the worst thing I've ever seen about the game is some of the people in it. Most players are really pretty decent folks. But then every now and again you run into one of these really bad apples, and I'd have to say that that's probably the worst thing in the game. Now, WoW has done a decent job of addressing that issue over the years. With the ability to report players who are abusive or bad to other people and that sort of thing, cheaters and all that sort of stuff. People who dupe objects and scam people. But yeah, I'd have to say in particular, I remember one particular guy who was just the worst person that I ran into in WoW, and definitely the occasional player that's horrible would be the worst thing in WoW.
Okay. And what was your least favorite dungeon or raid?
Oh boy. What is that win? The one where you have to jump from platform to platform and kill bosses.
That was the
That-
one Epistle was talking about.
Yeah, that would be my least favorite right there. I thought it was very disjointed, and people didn't know where to go, and then if you died, it was such a long run back, and it didn't have that feeling of awesome at the end for all of the annoyance that came along with it of having to jump in tornadoes and stuff. So yeah, bad. That one was not my favorite.
I agree with you because at the end of that one, every time I ran it, I always went, oh, thank God it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd queue up and it would be the same one again. You're like, oh, man.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where anytime I queued up and ended up in that one, I was just like, oh, this one again? Really?
I see that one. Yeah. So what's your least favorite class and race?
Oh, my least favorite race is human. Because I'm human.
Too boring?
I just don't. When I play a game, especially a fantasy game, I like to play a fantasy race. I'm human all the time. I don't want to be human in my fantasy game. So yeah, I'd have to go with human as my least favorite race. They're not bad necessarily or anything like that. I just don't like to play them because that's what I am. I want to play a Worgen or a Draenei or an elf or dwarf or pretty much anything other than human, really.
Sure, yeah. Feed your split personality.
Yeah, but my least favorite class. Yeah, it's kind of a tough call there. I mean, I've played them all, leveled them all up to 100, at least. Some of them up to 110. I really want to like it, but my least favorite class is Warlock. because I want to like it so much, and yet I never can find the play style satisfying. Um, every time I've tried to play a warlock, I'm like, oh, this will be pretty cool, and destruction's not bad, but ultimately I'm kind of like, I'm, I want more from this class. So I think that's probably my least favorite, and it has such great potential. Some people love it, but it's just I guess it's not for me.
Well, it can be. The warlock really was a very powerful foe for quite a while, and when they nerfed it is when I lost all my interest in it.
Yeah, I think maybe a close second on that for me would be pretty much healer spec of any class. I've tried healer before, and I don't get into it. I like to make the big booms. So I tend to lean towards DPS, and I don't mind tanking. I occasionally tank, and I don't mind that so much. When I first started playing role-playing game or online RPGs, MMORPGs like WoW, I played a tank, and I've played a tank many times, but I think healing spec in general is one that I don't go for.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean it is an acquired taste. I'm sure Tapachino would argue with you, but that's all right. She's not here.
Well, but different strokes for different folks, right? There's
Absolutely.
nothing. I have I love healers. They're great. They keep me alive. I just don't I have never gotten into it. I've tried a couple of times, and I just didn't enjoy it very much.
Yeah, fair enough. What factors influenced your faction choice between Horde and Alliance?
Here was the thing: is Horde. While I know it's not, like pure bad guys and good guys, and there's a lot of shades of gray in both the Alliance and the Horde. The Horde essentially struck me as being the bad guys, and so I tend, in most games that I play, and in most movies that I watch, I tend to align myself with what I view as the good guys. And so initially I picked Alliance because I didn't want to play the bad guys. And I like some of the races on there. Like, I totally wish I could play an Alliance Tauren. That would be awesome. But I can't do that. And like I said, there's a lot of gray area that the Horde is not specifically the bad guys in the lore. They've sided with the bad guys and ended up aligned with the bad guys like so often, but there's some good characters amongst the Horde. But yeah, that's why I went with Alliance. It would be the same thing as like why I identify more with Rebels over Imperials when it comes to Star Wars and things like that.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, anyway, I really want to thank you guys for coming out on this Christmas Day and doing this podcast. We only got one day of raiding in, but that was fine. We had a lot to talk about. We had some great questions again from our listeners. Thank you, listeners. Wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of us, I'm sure. And we will see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Merry
Excellent.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern Podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.